Good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you're joining us today for yet another episode of the Africa Football Business Show. And this promises to be another great session. We have very big guests here with us. Some faces that do not need an introduction, but I'll still let them introduce themselves. Just a reminder, the Africa Football Business Show is a product of the Football Foundation for Africa, where we seek to educate the continent on the business side of football. And this evening, we are privileged to be joined by none other than Robbie Lyle, alongside Mbakaya Milimu, the two AFCs well represented, Arsenal Football Club and AFC here in Kenya. So welcome, Robbie Lyle and Victor Milimu. And just for
Thank you.
introductions, maybe we'll start with you. Robbie, we'll give you the honors coming from very far to tell us more about yourself and your journey in football.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Robbie Lyle from AFTV and also DR Sports, based over here in the UK. And yeah, my business is football. We approach football from a bit of a different way, in that we do it from a fan's perspective. So everything that we do on the channels that I own are fan driven. So it's all about the fans and putting the fans first. So been doing AFTV now for literally nearly 10 years. October is going to be 10 years since we've been doing AFTV. I've got over 1.4 million followers on YouTube. Across all of our platforms, probably got about 5-6 million followers. And yeah, it's great. And I've got a new channel called DR Sports that's doing really well as well. And yeah, really flying as well at the moment, which is a channel that focuses on all football, not just Arsenal. So yeah, it's great.
Excellent stuff. We hope to hear more about your journey, Robbie, as we go ahead. What
hmm
about you, Victor Milimu, my good friend from AFC Leopards?
No, Mbakaya Milimu is my name, and just honored to be in the presence of the godfather of Fun TV, that is Robbie Lyle here. I think being a fan first, the thing that I do is I support AFC Leopards in running the media, where we coordinate some of the tasks that are there, albeit on a lot of. I think we are learning. We are learning because we are slightly. I could say behind as a country in adopting some of these things. We have several platforms which we do. We have Facebook, we have YouTube, which is still growing because I think that has been the major weakness of our industry. The video side of the content hasn't grown much, and basically that's so. Currently, it's a voluntary task. Driven from being a fan because I used to do fan-based content earlier. We had something called Ingwe fan, which is what an FC Leopards fan is called, an Ingwe fan, derived from the leopard, which is an Ingwe. So we used to do fan-based content. I was mentored by a couple of guys, and so when time came, I found myself supporting the club. So this is what I do with a team that is behind me that handles social media, photography, others on graphics, others on video, others on commentary. So it's quite a team that is behind me, and sometimes it's always a learning process each day on what we are doing.
Excellent, Mbakaya. Just a disclaimer, I grew up supporting AFC Leopards, and in my early teens, I started supporting Arsenal Football Club. So you can imagine what this show here today means to me. So we'll go back to you, Robbie. Um, I mean, tell us really what inspired you to start Arsenal Fan TV. You know, initially it was Arsenal Fan TV before it moved to become AFTV, and now there's even a bigger movement, a wider movement. You've mentioned DR Sports. What inspired you to go down this journey?
What inspired me was just, I'm a lifelong Arsenal fan, and I just used to feel that there was nothing regarding Arsenal from a fan's perspective. It was always just you just heard from journalists and ex-players, but you never ever heard from the fans who go to watch Arsenal or watch Arsenal wherever they are around the world, week in, week out. So I wanted to create a platform that was in video that would enable those ordinary fans to have their say on Arsenal. And so that's when I came up with the idea of why not, put this together and go round. And initially, our initial thing was like going to games and speaking to fans after the game to get their view on what they made of the performance and how the team was going, etc. So that was what it was initially. I mean, it's now grown into something a lot bigger than that. In that, we do games, we do watch-alongs of games, we do various shows throughout the week. We have a couple of studios that we have in North London where we're filming 24/7. So it's turned into something much bigger, where I now view us more as a broadcast, and we've even got some things in the pipeline at the moment that I think are going to be really, really exciting when they drop it, and some of them are going to be dropping over the next couple of weeks. So, but yeah, initially it was just simply let's just have fans. I'm a fan, you know what I mean? So, let's just be able to let ordinary fans have their say, and I think we've helped to achieve that.
Yeah, and I think part of your journey, or rather the developments that you have been able to experience with the AFTV, as a result of new technologies that have come along that are challenging the traditional ways of doing content, of producing and consuming content. So maybe you can share a bit more about this. What are some of these new technologies, and how are they supporting your growth as AFTV and the wider GFM?
Yeah, well, just to say, I mean, straight away, like, I was, funny enough, it's my birthday on the weekend, and I was thinking to myself, oh man, I wish I would have done like AFTV about 20 years ago, right? Because when I was even a little bit younger, and then I thought to myself, but hold on, if I'd have done it then, YouTube didn't even exist then. And that's how fast technology moves, things like the live function that everybody has a live function on their phone where they can go live to the world. It's just extraordinary the amount of technology that exists nowadays, and some of the stuff that we're looking to do, we got coming up in a couple of weeks time, is one of them is where we're going to be doing a lot more sort of broadcast shows where we will be able to allow fans from all over the world, as well as in the UK, to come on live and speak to us in real time, but not just like how say it's done on a StreamYard and that. We can have multiple people come up and a real sort of studio set into it. So we're launching that very soon, and also we're going to be we're venturing into the metaverse, and we're going to be doing shows where we can do debates and speak to fans in the metaverse. And that's really, really exciting, because I think that's kind of the next stage of where we're heading when it comes to a lot of this technology. And I'm really keen to be like an early adopter in the metaverse. So yeah, we've been working on that for about the past 6 months, and we're nearly there, and that's going to be coming very, very soon as well. So some really exciting times coming when it comes to technology.
Wow. All the best with the new project. A lot to look forward to, and definitely a lot to learn from. Just to bring you in, Mbakaya at AFC Leopards, and I'll put you a bit on the back foot here. You mentioned at the onset that we are a bit behind when it comes to technology and this kind of thing. But at the same time, we find ourselves in a position where we are now competing against global brands. As AFC Leopards, now you're competing for fans and their attention with Arsenal, with AFTV now. How are you managing that as a club, as a local club?
No, I think if you look at what Robbie has said, the answer lies in him. Robbie says he started this as a passion 10 years ago. They have studios across the country. And he talks about in London having around 4 studios. Now, we as a club don't even have one full studio to do 24/7 content. It just shows that it is about the amount of content that you need to churn out, because Robbie is a very busy guy. The other day I saw him on Sky Sports immediately for Overlap. Immediately you will see him on DR Sports daily. So there's that passion and consistency. And I feel for us, we have not been so consistent enough because partly you need a lot of finances in getting some of these things in place. You basically need to have time. And if you have to put up a studio, you find very few people are willing to invest even in home studios. I've had to really go through a journey for myself to even have such a setup that I have. And that is not even provided for currently in most of the clubs that we have. So you find that the biggest challenge you have is financing and also strategy. Our strategy, basically, I feel, is not robust. It's not very strong, and maybe because of the moment Robbie came up, when Robbie was starting off with AFTV, and most people were not keen at that time. And until Wenger now complained about it and said there is a group of fans who are really very harsh on us as a club, that's when people took into what Robbie and the team were doing. And you saw that was the passion that is the time when fans were now being recognized onto the digital space. On our side, we are still doing the tweeting, we are still doing the written. On the video end, it needs dedication, it needs scripting, it needs production. You need a team that can also go behind the scenes and also develop these short clips the way the team for Robbie did. Because when they were doing Arsenal TV that time, it is those short clips that went viral. So that was how the strategy. And for us, I feel we've not crafted our strategy very well. It's a big challenge to us. We need to now have more of like full-time teams to do this. Now also improve on studios. That is actually where I could say we have lagged behind. And as we continue doing that, we won't catch up, because now we were competing against the English Premier League as a league. But now we are competing against FTV. There is the United Stand with Mark Goldbridge. There's Robbie also now building DR Sports. You look at Rio Ferdinand is also building his 5 brand. So it's a whole range of more stronger content that is from the fans, while ourselves as even institution for sports, we are not yet developing enough. And I think that's the biggest weakness across Africa. The only club that maybe has a 24/7 station is Al Ahly. But it's in Arabic, it's not in English, and you only find it on satellite. There is nothing else on YouTube and the other platforms. Whether it's Twitch, whether it's Twitter, we don't really invest so much in that production, in my opinion.
Okay, so what opportunities do you see in the future, Mbakaya? What opportunities are there for clubs like AFC Leopards? Where should they invest in going forward?
There's no shortcut. If we take the example, you saw what Barcelona did. It's their media that has bailed them out. Barca Studios really made enough money for them. AC Milan, I think early this year, it really had to invest so much into AC Milan Studios. And you can see the change that they've had. If you look at a club like Flamengo in Southern America, they're very strong in this. So for us to go there has to be budgets that have to be put aside. One of the major dangers we have in our clubs is they're not putting aside enough budgets for media. The only media that people feel is a couple of photographs during match day and maybe a few photographs during training, and they feel that is media. That's not media. You look at what Manu TV do daily and Arsenal media do daily. There's a lot of content that they're picking from the training ground. It's the 30-second clips, it's the 1-minute clips, it's the nutmegs. And you see like a club like MU TV, which is very strong. I think it's one of the most strongest club TVs in the world. They have a show daily. I think it's a 5-minute thing where they say United daily. And this is done. They're selling it online. You see their platforms are robust. You can subscribe even on the Manchester. During the off-season, you find these platforms are free. They've done it. If we look at what the Americans have done with the NFL, they've put together the efforts. You can subscribe to the NFL. But that is not probably being done locally. I feel now if the clubs can't do it individually, we might need to do a collective responsibility and see what we can achieve. But if that is not done, we need at least 10% of the sponsorship budgets pushed into media. But that is not even being done. Not even 0.2% is pushed into media.
We know we don't have much time with Robbie, so we'd like to take advantage and get some insights from him.
Yes.
I think, Robbie, you've been keen on the African football scene, maybe from an AFTV perspective. But what would you advise African football clubs and organizations to do in order to grow their digital presence? Even you, I think you've told me that you did not start with much when you are starting Arsenal Fan TV. What would you advise these clubs to do? Of course, bearing in mind limitations in terms of resources and other and technology sometimes, but
Yeah.
technology now is more pervasive, so we can access that. How would you advise clubs in Africa to go about growing their brands globally?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd say I started mine with nothing. Basically, AFTV started with zero finances. Just basically, I was working at the time as a surveyor, and basically the money that I earned, that I had left over after I paid my bills, I used that to build AFTV. And then over a period of time, I mean, we started off with borrowed stuff. We borrowed microphones and borrowed cameras and stuff like that. And as we started to make a little money, we buy a camera, so we did it from the ground up. To now, 10 years later, lucky now we've been able to. I've always just reinvested the money that I've earned to get studios and cameras and staff, which is staffing is the most expensive part. But what I would say to, and listening to what you guys were just saying there, having a social media profile for a football club should be as important or nearly as important as the team itself, because by showcasing the team with the social media platform, you can bring in more sponsorship, you can bring in more fans, you can make people who are all over the club, all over the world and all over the country aware of your club. And when you're the fan of a football club, so if you're a fan of Leopards, you want to find out more and more. You want to find out everything about the Leopards. You want to know about the players. You want to know about training. You want to know information. When's the next game? Who's fit to play? You know what I mean? So it's a massive, massive opportunity. And if those things are not being done, it's a massive opportunity missed. And that is how I feel that it can be done on quite low budgets when it comes to technology, because the technology exists. So, you can take a phone out now. There's some good phones out there where you can film content on there, and if you don't say to people that, oh, actually that was filmed on a phone, they probably would never know. You know what I mean? So and you can go live on that phone, and that is better than having no camera at all. And I really do think it's an opportunity missed if these things are not being done, because people, as I said, if you're a fan of a football club, and if you're a fan of football, you can't get enough. And like you said there, which is very, very important, it's about I think sometimes one of the most important things is consistency of content, right? And I always say to even my guys, and when sometimes I go into schools and I give talks about social media and that, and I'm always saying to kids and consistency. You know what I mean? You can't just put out content today and then you don't put out nothing for 2 weeks, then you come back again, because think about it, and think about the platforms that you guys follow. You go onto these platforms daily sometimes to look at content. Yep. If you go on there and the last thing they posted was 2 weeks ago, you might give them a pass the first time. The second time you go on and you see something like it, you're going to be like, I'm not even bothering with this no more, because there's too many other platforms out there that are posting consistently. So be consistent in the posting of content, because people can't get enough of it. And so that I really do feel that you can build a platform on a fairly low budget if you're consistent, if you're dedicated to what you want to do, and like you said, if you have a plan in place for that content, and the plan for that content might be right. With the resources that we have, we can only post content twice a week. Well, then do that and stick to it and do it consistently. If it's 3 times a week, do that consistently. If it's once a month, do that consistently. But just be consistent and just do it over and over again, and it will start to grow. And this massive. I mean, I'm not sure with for instance, with the Leopards, how many supporters they get per game, but I would be sure that just in judging from the support that you see coming out of Africa for African football, that there'd be big support. And I really do think clubs in Africa now need to start raising the profile of their clubs. I mean, there'd be a lot of people really, really interested in it. You think even for a club itself, if they say, I've got a player that's really, really good, and, we're consistently seeing this player play, that player could be bought. I'm not saying you want to lose your best players. That player could be bought by a club over in Europe, which then in turn gives a lot of money to the club to then build and build and build again. So, I think it's all about just having a plan and being consistent with that. And it doesn't take millions of pounds to build a platform for a football club. It really doesn't.
I think AFC Leopards with Mbakaya Milimu did quite a good job last season in terms of being consistent on social media. And we could see the effect almost immediately with the fans starting to stream back into the stadium. So I don't know, Mbakaya, what was your experience? How did you manage these social media and the campaign to bring fans back to the stadium? What are some of the challenges you encountered and how did you overcome them? How was this experience?
No, as Robbie has said, it's about consistency. So what we did is in our discussion as a team, we realized that we didn't have a lot of fans in the stadium. At one moment, we are coming up from COVID, that the numbers are very few. We decided instead of taking photos for the whole stadium and leaving empty spaces, we'll focus on the spaces where there are crowds. So we pick where there's action, where the fans are enjoying, even if there are only 20 fans. That's what we did. And so after consistently posting 2 or 3 times and toying around with our fans' minds, they started to feel that they were missing out on something that was happening in the stadium. And some started to complain, why are we not also being posted? And after a short while, we saw that stand started to fill. Then the next stand filled. And after a while, we now had almost 2,000 or so plus fans in the stadium. From initially just around 1,000, the number grew. So, as he said, it's about that consistency, but also you need to understand that optics matters, how you phrase it. And I think we are one lucky club that has fans. The other clubs are not so lucky. Maybe only one other club, but the rest are not lucky. And I feel, as Robbie said, we are missing an opportunity to maximize on those numbers. We did stream our matches. The numbers were huge. You would find after every match you have had at least 30,000 views from just the stream itself. And if you put up highlights, you see you also hitting another 30, 40,000. But I feel maybe the management of the sport in the country doesn't identify, or even the corporate side of the sport doesn't identify, because we push the numbers, we were the best. But still, as we said, we can do so much with that one camera. And one of the things Robbie has said, the most expensive part is not the equipment, it is the human resource. And so you cannot have somebody volunteering 100 times while there has been sponsorship being poured in the club. He'll ask, what is in it for me at this point? I cannot keep spending while every other service provider is being paid, whether it's a hotel, whether it's the fuel. Why not us, who are also being used when it's time to market the brand of the club? So that is, I think, but it was great. It's just about that small strategy of consistency, which we did then. But because of the break we've had, we also ended up slowing down at some point.
I mean, just going back to what you're saying there. Just going back to what you're saying there. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Robbie. Yes.
Yeah, I was just saying, just going back to what you're saying there. I can't. That's a bit baffling that they don't recognise the importance of, the media side. I mean, for starters, streaming the games, that's going out to 30,000 people. That's probably more than what's in the stadium. So, and the highlights is going out to, those are good numbers. So, and those numbers will grow and grow and grow. And then if you get 30,000 people watching your game, you can then sell them your shirts. and then you can sell them tickets to the next game. And so it's baffling that they don't see that the importance of media. I mean, the reason why the English Premier League is the richest league in the world, where they're able to pay ridiculous amounts of money to football players. And I think I saw a stat the other day that they said that Norwich City, who got relegated, they made £100 million for the year, whereas Ajax, they won the league over in Holland. They made about 10 million, right, for winning the league, and Norwich made about 100 million. But the reason why that is because the Premier League, it's seen around the world.
Yeah,
it's seen around the world. A package that they sell around the world enables people around the world, whether it be in Kenya, whether it be in Jamaica, America, wherever you are, you can watch the English Premier League, and people pay for that. So that is the importance of being able to see the product. So it's the same, even if we take it down to the same level with the Leopards, right? If I see the Leopards play, right, and I enjoy that, I will come back and keep watching, and that's how you start to build a fan base, and that's how you start to make more and more and more money. So something like streaming the games should be of the utmost importance. That should be something where they're saying, right, listen, this is going to be almost like a priority number one to stream our games, because we want people to see us, we want people to know who we are. This is what raises the profile of our football club. So that, and if you do that consistently and that gets big, and I know it's not your decision, that is when the whole thing becomes huge. And the benefits of that. But that's why the Premier League's so strong, because there's other leagues, as I said, the Dutch league, you can't watch that every year, every country around the world.
No.
Hence why it's not as big, because not as many people. They've got good footballers there. They've got very good technical footballers.
Yep.
But if you can't watch it, it's not going to be as big, is it? It's as simple as that. It's a numbers game.
Excellent. Yeah, now that you said it's a numbers game. Just something maybe for you, Robbie, again. With your fan-led strategy, you've more or less set out to eclipse the traditional broadcasting models. But do you foresee a situation where mainstream sponsors follow into the fan-led space? Right now, maybe Emirates is supporting Arsenal and the Abu Stadium and all that. But do you see these kind of sponsors coming into the fan-led channels and sponsoring the same? Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of sponsors that I think 5 years ago wouldn't have come on board. They're now coming on board because they see the value of what we do. I think there's a lot of even football clubs over here in the UK who are changing up their content, because they see the value of fans. I mean, you guys spoke about the overlap earlier. So Gary Neville, I mean, he uses that is a fan-based piece of content that he's doing on that channel.
Yep.
And you see the numbers they get for it, and the sponsorship they're getting off of a very big betting company. So, definitely you see already traditional media companies are changing up their strategies to reflect that, because if you look at a lot of young kids in particular now in the UK, I'll give us an example. They don't really watch a lot of television. They don't watch a lot of TV. They don't watch a lot of traditional TV. What they do watch is they watch YouTube, they watch TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. That's what they're on. They're on their phones and they're watching that content. So if you are a company and you want to reach that market, you got to start going to the people who are in that market. And hence why you see a lot of football clubs over here changing their strategy now and starting to recognize now that, the traditional route that they've always gone of putting everything on TV is not the route to go. Things have changed. It's changed, social. As I said, if I look at my kids, they hardly watch TV. They watch, they consume most of their content on their phones, and even when they do consume content on TV, a lot of it is things like Netflix, where they can get it on demand. So the whole traditional structure of this show's on at 8 o'clock, that's on at 9. This one, those days are done. Those days, I can see in another 10 years' time that there's hardly any TV, hardly any traditional TV left. Honestly, I really can see that. Even with the rights, when it comes to football, you're starting to see more and more football rights and more sporting rights being shown on, platforms. Platforms sometimes owned by big media companies, or platforms like YouTube, or platforms like, it's happening more and more and more. And I think you're going to see a lot of that with the World Cup this year as well. So it's a forever. It's changing because technology is changing it.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but just one question for Robbie. Robbie used to do music at some point. I don't know how he changed from music into sports, or if that experience for music really motivated you when you're doing sports.
Yeah, no, my experience when I was involved in music back in the days definitely helped me a lot. Because I used to do a lot of music back in the day, and it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about promotion. Taught me a lot about consistency, and it's a tough industry. You know what I mean? And to be able to stay relevant, you've always got to be thinking. You've always got to be thinking out of the box. You've always got to be coming up with ideas. So it helped me a lot. Helped me a lot in what I do now.
all right, excellent. Just before you go, Robbie, today when you reposted on LinkedIn, somebody else reached out to me and he shared with me the picture that we now have
Yeah.
on the screen. He is a big West Ham United fan, but also a big promoter of African football. So we are glad to be joined by Dean Army.
Hello,
How
everyone.
you doing?
Hi,
You good,
Dean. How
Robbie?
are you?
Hi.
I'm good. I'm good.
Oh God, when
So
Robbie started doing AFCON watch-alongs, that made my day.
Oh yeah. Listen, I remember doing the AFCON watch-alongs, and they were brilliant. In particular, I always remember the one we did when it was Nigeria and Ghana. It was one of my favourite watch-alongs. On DR. I mean, the passion was unbelievable. You know what I mean? And listen, I'm passionate about. I really want to see African football rising as well. I was over in Nigeria a few months back. We went over there and we did some content. We did a watch party where we watched the game with Nigerian fans, and the passion of those fans was absolutely unbelievable. And plan in the future to go to more African countries. I'd love to come to Kenya. I've met so many Kenyan fans over here in this country going to games, and they're always telling me about how passionate the fans are over there. So no, it was an honor to do those watch-alongs.
I think we look forward to welcoming here in Kenya. We won't say much for
Sure.
now, but we look forward to hosting AFTV and Robbie Lyle here in Kenya very, very soon. And thank you very much for supporting the Africa Football Business Show by your presence
No
here
worries.
today. I think we'll let you go and watch your kid play. I think that's very, very
It's my
important.
son. Yeah, my son's actually playing today. So yeah, just got to go and watch him play. I watch a lot of grassroots football as well. So I'm just always around football, man. I can't get away from it. Unless Tottenham are playing, then I don't watch it. No, I'm only joking.
No,
I
that's
think- I
much
think-
understandable, Robbie.
They are playing now. That's why I put the show at this time. Tottenham should be playing at the moment, so we don't really care about it. But
We're
yeah,
not
thank
missing.
you
We're
very
not
much,
missing nothing.
Robbie. And thank you also for introducing me to Dean Army. When he reached out and I went to check him out, I see he's actually doing what we are talking about today in terms of digital engagement. He just mentioned his YouTube channel. He'll tell us more about this. Up to 15,000 subscribers, touching mainly on African football. So
Brilliant.
congratulations on that,
Thank
Dean.
you.
And I look forward to engaging further. So maybe you can just introduce yourself a bit more and share more about your project, Dinan.
Okay, guys, thank you.
Thank you,
Cheers,
Robbie.
Robbie. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, so yeah, thanks for the welcome, guys. So yeah, basically I'm Dean. I live in London at the moment, but my parents are North African. So obviously, a lot of people forget about the North African side of African football. It's very big. Even at the clubs level, you look at the CAF Champions League, how many times you see in the North African teams in the semi-finals and the finals, you know. So I watched Arsenal Fan TV a few years ago, and I'm like, okay, who's doing this for Africa? Who is doing the watch-alongs for African games? Who is vlogging the African games? No one was doing it, particularly from the UK side of things. You know, even if you wanted to watch those games, there's no broadcasters here for that sort of football. So even if I wanted to watch the Kenyan teams, I probably couldn't unless there was one in the continental tournaments. But even then, I think Kenya were not allowed to put any clubs through this season. So it's very difficult to see African clubs from the UK. So I decided to start making my own content. And it was a great start because Algeria won the Africa Cup of Nations when I first started doing the AFCON in 2019. And then, of course, unfortunately, the COVID situation kind of slowed everything down. And then more recently, it's just been very highs and lows with the Algeria-Cameroon game, shall I say, and we'll leave it at that.
I think we were talking earlier today, and you said, yeah, you're still not over the fact that you will be missing this year's World Cup in Qatar, but yeah, we think we should be getting over that really soon. So about your channel, I know it's called DA something, and how
Yeah.
long have you been running the channel, and what are some of the challenges you faced in terms of keeping it up and keeping it going?
So I would say I started running it about maybe just over 3 years ago. And I only did it at the beginning as, I'd say, a hobby, sort of a passion. You know, African fans are very passionate. You see them in the stadium, the colour, the noise, the fireworks. And then I decided to take it a bit more seriously. So I bought a camera, a tripod, a green screen behind me to make it look like I'm actually in Africa. And then I've just really enjoyed it. The challenge is, like you say, though. For example, the amount of times an Africa Cup of Nations would get postponed, the logistics side can be quite difficult. I have done some vlogs on my channel of Algeria national team games, but of course, internally, sometimes the organisation and the structure is not as fluid as maybe some of the football in the European continent, so that can make things difficult. I mean, the CAF Champions League final recently. I mean, how many times was the venue changed for that competition? So sometimes it's difficult logistically to plan things like that. But really positive is you can connect African football fans around the world with platforms like YouTube. If you're in the UK, America, if you're in Africa, I mean, Africa itself is 1 billion population, and you combine it with the African diaspora living abroad in Australia, Middle East, the Western world. Honestly, the potential is huge, and I think it's only a matter of time before someone grabs it.
No, I do agree with you. I do agree with you that the potential is amazingly huge, but we just lack that consistency, as you've said. For instance, you find that and because the systems are not well structured, if you start to talk so much about maybe a team, everybody wants you to praise the system. Nobody wants you to be objective about the content. So if you say, why was player X called and not player Y, you'll be branded as an enemy of the federation or the coach because they feel that you're attacking that particular team. If you question why player X has been chosen, but his form is not the best, the player X might even organize a pack of guys to really hit back on you and say, why are you talking about me? That is now the challenge you have with Africa. It's such a small community that follows the game, and the same small community sabotages itself because we forget to push. But I've seen, just apart from your channel, there's also another channel that is based in Ghana. It's good that I mention them. They're called Sahara Sports, Sahara Football. The Kwaku Afuyoi is very consistent in talking about the Ghanaian game. Daily, you'll see him talk about the Ghanaian teams, their international players, and the hype is done now. It's amazing that he's even got a YouTube recommendation for his channel. It's one of the highly followed channels that is just purely based on Ghanaian sports. But you look at us in East Africa, we, especially Kenya, we are more into the European football. The UEFA Champions League is big on us. The Real Madrid, then the EPL consumes us so much. We don't have enough time to consume our own content. But I would feel it's not because of the fans. It's because of us who produce the content. We don't consistently produce the content to feed into the fans so that they can keep coming back and maybe also having an option, because you cannot consume also so much about one team daily. But you see the number of fun platforms that are being created locally for people just talking about Arsenal, Manchester United, Chelsea. The cult following is huge. And I think one of the things that I've learned, which I always tell my team, is when we're trying to do a content, let us think, because they say football is a religion, let's look at even how churches or religious organizations produce content. They're very consistent. They'll start small, but they're very consistent with that message daily. Whatever little they have, they'll have it out there. But for us, we want to do one thing after a month and then say we are back. After 6 months, we are welcome back. We are back with a bang. And that bang will never reach.
Never happens. Anyway, just to take you into your FC Leopards, Mbakaya Milimu. I mean, you're driving the media strategy there at the moment. How soon do you see media starting to impact the baselines at the club in terms of driving revenue? Because, as Robbie said, that is critical. Where are we as AFC Leopards today in terms of adopting new media for driving revenue?
I think currently the any sponsorship that has come on board on the club partly has been because of the visibility we are doing. When I came back for a long, there was a gap when I started off most of these platforms as a volunteer a long time ago, then took a break to do some other things, then came back again when nobody wanted to touch the club at some point. So in 2019, we started off because we had no sponsor, we had no money, everybody was running away from the team. There was so much propaganda around the club. So we decided to really structure the club in such a way that we protect it. We take training content, we bring it out. Whenever somebody wants to say there's no training that happened, they'll see something on the club's channels. So we started off with trying to change the image of the club. And after a while, there was positive news that we got a sponsor. Then that went on, and the sponsor was happy with our visibility, and we kept doing. But I feel what we've done is we've not marketed ourselves more. We've not done more marketing to maximize on our numbers or visibility. So what we could be lacking as a club is that strength in pushing for marketing, and that's why you see comedians are coming around and grabbing the same brands that should be sponsoring us. So that becomes a challenge. It's about now that marketing aspect, which I feel, for me, I'm an engineer by profession. So there are some aspects of marketing that I may not be strong at. I'll be logical, I'll plan for the content, I'll plan for the strategy, I'll build the team, create synergy. But when it comes to bring the money, I need more help from other people who now need to feed off the energy you're doing. And now that might not be in my control. That now has to be on a higher level.
Maybe that's where Dean can come in. I think he has a marketing background from what I could see. Have you managed, Dean, for example, to monetize some of your content? I know you've done a lot of it out of passion, but how do you see, how can clubs, especially in Africa, start to take advantage of media to drive their revenues? Because that's crucial for sustainability.
Yeah, well, first of all, obviously YouTube, when you hit a certain threshold, you get revenue from the adverts. You know, every time I see a YouTube video with adverts at the beginning, in the middle, or the end, it's because they're making money from the advert. And every time you click the advert, the producer of that content will make a small amount. So particularly some of the bigger channels, you look at how many subscribers they have, you think of how many people would potentially click on their adverts, and that's how they make some revenue. So that's what I started doing with my channel. That's one way to generate revenue. And then the second thing, of course, is sponsors. I mean, we forget about the basics of sponsorship. You look at club teams, the sponsors they have on their shirts, for example. It's the same principle when producing the content online. Eventually, when you grow to a certain level, you will get companies, probably sport-based, approaching you saying, "Can we sponsor your videos? Can we have a little picture in the bottom corner?" You know, and again, sponsorship money. That's a big way that football clubs themselves generate revenue. So there's lots of streams, and then of course you can get to a certain level when you do eventually get quite big, where you can actually charge people a fee every month to watch sort of extra exclusive videos. So say you have your channel, and then you have a behind the scenes video. You can put that behind a paywall, a bit like what Netflix and companies like that do. So I think there's definitely a lot of potential revenue streams that can be explored by the African scene.
A great insight as we come to an end to this episode of the Africa Football Business Show. Maybe I just look through the comments to see if there are any questions. I think we have one here from Timothy Kaja. Says, how do you balance protecting your intellectual property rights and spreading your content and not violating IP rights of leagues and clubs that you focus on? You have a take on this, Dean?
It's a good question. I suppose because I'm not directly representing, say, a football club. Say, they're like Robbie is of Arsenal, or our colleague is here with the Kenyan side. Because for me, I'm talking about it from a sort of a general point of view, an analytical point of view. I'm not sort of ruining a club's image or a club's reputation or a national team's reputation. So from that perspective, it's a little bit easier for me. But in terms of, I have to probably be careful if I start saying, if I, for example, with Kenya, if I said Victor Wanyama should never play again for Kenya, then I'm sure there'll be a lot of Kenyans watching, maybe Kenyan potential sponsors watching, saying you cannot say that on camera to a platform, So sometimes you have to protect your integrity.
Excellent. What's your take on these, Victor?
No, I think for intellectual property, we normally, we usually consider exactly our scope. For instance, if the league as a broadcast sponsor, we'll ask what we can do and what we cannot do. But I feel what we've forgotten is that majority of the content is not even the match day. It's the build up to the match day and after the match day. Look, we haven't, like next season, we're planning to do now match day pressers. I would just maybe try to give something to our fans what we're trying to do. We've done it in the past, but now we need a bit of consistency. We want to do more of match day, pre-match pressers, to give more room for the coach to give his way so that we can build up towards a match. We want to do more clips from training ground. The small things, we have a lot of skilled events that happen in the training ground that we don't bring out. There are small things that happen. We've been doing this on match day. If you've watched our social media team doing, whenever the team bus arrives, there's always a video that comes up. Whenever they're warming up, there's always something we are doing. That has been well captured already by the team. We now want to go now deeper and go into we want to take you now into the dressing room, but maybe for that we might give a bit of it, and slowly in future we might give more. But we have some content that we know we get from the dressing room, but we cannot release it because we also are the face of the club and we have to protect the image of the club at all times. But we will give our fans what we feel we can. We are bringing back the Ingwe Fan Zone. Ingwe Fan Zone was a fan zone. It's labeled, it's a model along the fan zone for the EPL, where we have a particular day in the week, which we chose on Thursday, just before the matches, where we discuss, fans come into the show, we share about what we've been doing. So in the last 2 weeks, we've been doing these discussions on Telegram. We have a Telegram channel, but I think because of demand, we might now be bringing back the video side so that we can try to grow. And as we've been told here, there's so much potential. I feel An example is when Barcelona got the sponsorship for Spotify. Spotify came in knowing that Barcelona had large numbers. But when Barcelona were asked to produce the contracts of the numbers, the millions, they didn't produce enough. Well, they got the deal, but the deal was watered down because their numbers at that point didn't match. But if you look at the work that Barca Studios are doing and what Robbie told us, we need to have more 24/7 kind of mentality. When people are free, they need to create content. When people are available, we need to be doing something. Like at this point, if we do something and discuss an FC Leopards player with our friend here, you see now that's how the game grows. He comes in, we discuss, he asks, so who is the best player you feel is in this league? Wanyama played for FC Leopards way back in mid 2000. We have some history on him. And so those are the things that make us happy. There's one player that left us and joined a club in Sweden recently, Collins Change. And I remember when we were mentoring them in doing media interviews, I told them that you need to get used to doing English interviews because at one point, that will be the language that you'll be interfacing with. Yes, we have our local language and we have also the slang, but how long can you use that? So our players are aware when we doing content with them, they know they can switch between English, they can switch into Swahili, our language, and also the slang. But mostly they know for me, when I have a chance to talk with them, they know they have to do English because I always tell them, I'm looking at you beyond our borders. I want you to sell every corner of the world. And for sure, none of the FC Leopards players is afraid on camera. They are always prepared.
Excellent work, Victor. Yeah, just as we come to an end, maybe I'll start with you and then go on to Dean again. How could you, because also here at the Africa Football Business Show, it's about inspiring more professionals to come into the field and help in building the game. So, what inspires you, and what would you advise other people, especially young professionals, who would wish to get into the digital media space in sports?
Yeah, I think for me personally, as I told you, my background is engineering. I do a lot. I actually create time for sports because I always say, if you have an internet connection in your house, you want all the time. There is nothing else to ask for more. You already have it. You are not going to work 24 hours only on one thing. You're supposed to be, as a man, you're supposed to be able to do so much. And I started off this when I was running a blog long time ago for sports in called Kenyan Star. So we had so much going on. I believe in the Kenyan market, I've had an impact in around 23 journalists' lives directly using that platform. So if you walk in some of these media houses, you will meet people say, I think I know Victor, well, I know him on this personal level. And I feel I've done the same. I would like to do the same at club level, but as you said, this thing requires passion. If we're doing commentary, I don't want you to come and play around. I would like you to do research. You should come with your facts. You should know which opponent you're playing with. I could prepare all those things because I'm a fan of I'm a fan of the team. I've followed the team for long. I know all the corners to get the data. But you know, with the generation we have, you need to like spoon feed them. But I feel for me, I'm open to having opportunity and sitting down with anybody willing to do sports content, giving them any platform because any moment, whether it's FC Leopards or other platforms that I'm on, there's always an opportunity to grow yourself. So it boils down to passion, discipline, and also just a bit of aggressiveness because that I think is something that we lack around. And for us as a club, you know, we are competing. So that you always have to show yourself. You have to give yourself in every bit. And that's why when people see me, they see the face of the club. So nowadays, I cannot just speak carelessly about football anymore because whenever you speak, I could come out as the face of the club because of what we've been doing. It started off as voluntary, but we're now having that big impact. So next season, I'm hoping to see if I can get one or two more young journalists, probably into writing, and also those who are willing to do a bit more of audio and visual commentary. So that is actually the plan for next season.
All the best, Victor, with these great projects that you mentioned. What about you, Dean? I think one of our viewers asked at some point, what inspires you? So how can you inspire others to also get into this space?
Well, first of all, I'd echo everything that's already been said, and second of all, what I would say in terms of getting involved, if we don't push it ourselves as Africans, then how can we expect other people to come and push it? You know, we have to be the driving force. We have to push it first, and then others will join us. If we don't do that, then we cannot expect other people to get on board straight away. For me, my inspiration, I'm sure everyone here has a love for football. You know, we've heard stories about how it's not even their main like thing in life. Some people have a full-time job and they're doing football on the side. You know, Robbie was talking about how they did the music first. So we all love football, and it inspires us. We all have a team. We want to watch them every time they play. We want to wear their shirt, and that's the inspiration for me. You know, it's like when I watch West Ham United, that's my motivation. I don't need someone to tell me to watch them, because I'm going to do it anyway. So it's the same for me for turning the camera on, talking about AFCON. I love AFCON. I love watching AFCON, even if the Western media want to, you know, make a mockery of the AFCON sometimes, which I don't like it when they do. For me, it's the best tournament in the world, best supporters in the world, and I'm inspired to showcase that to everyone around the world in a good light.
Beautiful. And looking forward to having more of these conversations. Just for those who are joining us at this moment, remember these conversations and other conversations to build our football industry in Africa will be happening here in Nairobi next month, October 18th and 19th, at the Radisson Blue Hotel. This is the inaugural Africa Football Business Summit, brought to you by the Football Foundation for Africa and powered by Football Expo. So we look forward to welcoming as many people as possible to this pivotal event in the African football industry. So thank you very much, Mbakaya Milimu. Thank you very much, Dean Ami, for joining us even
Thank
on
you.
such short notice. I think your passion also just comes through. Being available to do this on very short notice demonstrate your love for the African game and your passion to build it. So until the next show, the advice also I've gotten today is consistency, and hope to have another show next week. And we look forward to another engaging subject as we build towards the inaugural Africa Football Business Summit. So with that, I'd like to bid everybody a good evening or a good day from wherever you're joining us, and I look forward to engaging with you. Thank you, Mbakaya. Thank you, Dean, and of course, Robbie Lyle, who was here with us earlier. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Cheers. Cheers.
Bye.